Chapter 11 of Adam Bede by George Eliot. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Tom Denholm. In the Cottage. It was but 4:30 the next morning when Dinah, tired of lying awake listening to the birds and watching the growing light through the little window in the garret roof, rose and began to dress herself very quietly, lest she should disturb Lisbeth. But already someone else was astir in the house, and had gone downstairs, preceded by Jip. The dog's pattering step was a sure sign that it was Adam who went down, but Dinah was not aware of this, and she thought it was more likely to be Seth, for he had told her how Adam had stayed up working the night before. Seth, however, had only just awakened at the sound of the opening door. The exciting influence of the previous day, heightened at last by Dinah's unexpected presence, had not been counteracted by any bodily weariness, for he had not done his ordinary amount of hard work, and so when he went to bed, it was not until he had tired himself with hours of tossing wakefulness that drowsiness came, and led on a heavier morning sleep than was usual with him. But Adam had been refreshed by his long rest, and with his habitual impatience of mere passivity, he was eager to begin the new day and subdue sadness by his strong will and strong arm. The white mist lay in the valley. It was going to be a bright, warm day, and he would start to work again when he had had his breakfast. "There's nothing but what's bearable as long as a man can work," he said to himself. "The nature of things doesn't change, though it seems as if one's own life was nothing but change. The square of 4 is 16, and you must lengthen your lever in proportion to your weight, as is true when a man's miserable as when he's happy. And the best of working is, it gives you a grip hold of things outside your own lot." As he dashed the cold water over his head and face, he felt completely himself again, and with his black eyes as keen as ever, and his thick black hair all glistening with the fresh moisture, he went into the workshop to look out the wood for his father's coffin, intending that he and Seth should carry it with them to Jonathan Burge's, and have the coffin made by one of the workmen there, so that his mother might not see and hear the sad task going forward at home. He had just gone into the workshop when his quick ear detected a light, rapid foot on the stairs, certainly not his mother's. He had been in bed and asleep when Dinah had come in the evening, and now he wondered whose step this could be. A foolish thought came and moved him strangely, as if it could be Hetty. She was the last person likely to be in the house, and yet he felt reluctant to go and look, and have the clear proof that it was someone else. He stood leaning on a plank he had taken hold of, listening to sounds which his imagination interpreted for him so pleasantly that the keen, strong face became suffused with a timid tenderness. The light footstep moved about the kitchen, followed by the sound of the sweeping brush, hardly making so much noise as the slightest breeze that chases the autumn leaves along the dusty path. And Adam's imagination saw a dimpled face with dark bright eyes and roguish smiles looking backward at this brush, and a rounded figure just leaning a little to clasp the handle. A very foolish thought. It could not be Hetty, but the only way of dismissing such nonsense from his head was to go and see who it was, for his fancy only got nearer and nearer to belief while he stood there listening. He loosed the plank and went to the kitchen door. "How do you do, Adam Bede?" said Dinah in her calm treble, pausing from her sweeping and fixing her mild, grave eyes upon him. "I trust you feel rested and strengthened again to bear the burden and heat of the day." It was like dreaming of the sunshine and awaking in the moonlight. Adam had seen Dinah several times, but always at the Hall Farm, where he was not very vividly conscious of any woman's presence except Hetty's. And he had only in the last day or two begun to suspect that Seth was in love with her, so that his attention had not hitherto been drawn towards her for his brother's sake. But now her slim figure, her plain black gown, and her pale, serene face impressed him with all the force that belongs to a reality contrasted with a preoccupying fancy. For the first moment or two he made no answer, but looked at her with the concentrated, examining glance which a man gives to an object in which he has suddenly begun to be interested. Dinah, for the first time in her life, felt a painful self-consciousness. There was something in the dark, penetrating glance of this strong man so different from the mildness and timidity of his brother Seth. A faint blush came, which deepened as she wondered at it. This blush recalled Adam from his forgetfulness. "I was quite taken by surprise. It was very good of you to come and see my mother in her trouble," he said in a gentle, grateful tone, for his quick mind told him at once how she came to be there. "I hope my mother was thankful to have you," he added, wondering rather anxiously what had been Dinah's reception. "Yes," said Dinah, resuming her work, "she seemed greatly comforted after a while, and she's had a good deal of rest in the night by times. She was fast asleep when I left her." "Who was it took the news to the Hall Farm?" said Adam, his thoughts reverting to someone there. He wondered whether she had felt anything about it. "It was Mr. Irwine, the clergyman, told me, and my aunt was grieved for your mother when she heard it, and wanted me to come. So is my uncle, and I'm sure now he's heard it, but he was gone out to Rossiter all yesterday. They'll look for you there as soon as you've got time to go, for there's nobody round that hearth but what's glad to see you." Dinah, with her sympathetic divination, knew quite well that Adam was longing to hear if Hetty had said anything about their trouble. She was too rigorously truthful for benevolent invention, but she had contrived to say something in which Hetty was tacitly included. Love has a way of cheating itself consciously, like a child who plays at solitary hide-and-seek. It is pleased with assurances that it all the while disbelieves. Adam liked what Dinah had said so much that his mind was directly full of the next visit he should pay to the Hall Farm, when Hetty would perhaps behave more kindly to him than she had ever done before. "But you won't be there yourself any longer?" he said to Dinah. "No, I go back to Snowfield on Saturday, and I shall have to set out to Treddleston early to be in time for the Oakbourne carrier. So I must go back to the farm tonight, that I may have the last day with my aunt and her children. But I can stay here all today if your mother would like me, and her heart seemed inclined towards me last night." "Ah, then, she's sure to want you today. If mother takes to people at the beginning, she's sure to get fond of 'em. But she's a strange way of not liking young women. Though, to be sure," Adam went on, smiling, "her not liking other young women is no reason why she shouldn't like you." Hitherto Jip had been assisting at this conversation in motionless silence, seated on his haunches, and alternately looking up in his master's face to watch its expression, and observing Dinah's movements about the kitchen. The kind smile with which Adam uttered the last words was apparently decisive with Jip of the light in which the stranger was to be regarded, and as she turned round after putting aside her sweeping brush, and put up his muzzle against her hand in a friendly way. "You see, Jip bids you welcome," said Adam, "and he's very slow to welcome strangers." "Poor dog," said Dinah, patting the rough grey coat. I've a strange feeling about the dumb things, as if they wanted to speak, and it was a trouble to 'em because they couldn't. I can't help feeling sorry for the dogs always, though perhaps there's no need. But they may well have more in them than they know how to make us understand, for we can't say half what we feel with all our words." Seth came down now, and was pleased to find Adam talking with Dinah. He wanted Adam to know how much better she was than all other women. But after a few words of greeting, Adam drew him into the workshop to consult about the coffin, and Dinah went on with her cleaning. By 6 o'clock they were all at breakfast, with Lisbeth in a kitchen as clean as she could have made it herself. The window and door were open, and the morning air brought with it a mingled scent of southern wood, thyme, and sweet briar from the patch of garden by the side of the cottage. Dinah did not sit down at first, but moved about, serving the others with the warm porridge and the toasted oat cake, which she had got ready in the usual way, for she had asked Seth to tell her just what his mother gave them for breakfast. Lisbeth had been unusually silent since she came downstairs, apparently requiring some time to adjust her ideas to a state of things in which she came down like a lady to find all the work done, and sat still to be waited on. Her new sensations seemed to exclude the remembrance of her grief. At last, after tasting the porridge, she broke silence. "You might have made the porridge worse," she said to Dinah. "I can ate it without its turning my stomach. It might have been a trifle thicker and no harm, and I allus putting a sprig of mint in mysen. But how's ye to know that? The lads aren't like to get folks as'll make their porridge as I made it for 'em. It's well if they can get anybody as'll make porridge at all. But ye might do wi' a bit of showing, for you're a stirring body in the morning, and you've a light heel, and you've cleaned the house well enough for a makeshift." "Makeshift, mother?" said Adam. "Why, I think the house looks beautiful. I don't know how it could look better." "Thee dostna know? Nay, how's thee to know? The men ne'er know whether the floor's cleaned or cat-licked. But thee'lt know when thee gets the porridge burnt, as it's like enough to be when I'm gien o'er making it. Thee'lt think their mother were good for summat then." "Dinah," said Seth, "do come and sit down now and have your breakfast. We're all served now." "Aye, come and sit ye down, do," said Lisbeth, "and ate a morsel. You'd need after been upo' your legs this hour and a half already. Come then," she added in a tone of complaining affection, as Dinah sat down by her side. "I'll be loath for ye to go, but you canna stay much longer, I doubt. I could put up ye in the house better nor wi' most folks." "I'll stay till tonight if you're willing," said Dinah. "I'd stay longer, only I'm going back to Snowfield on Saturday, and I must be with my aunt tomorrow." "I'd ne'er go back to that country. Me old man came from that Stonyshire side, but he left it when he were a young un, and i' the right on't too, for he said as there were no wood there, and it 'ud ha' been a bad country for a carpenter." "Ah," said Adam, "I remember father telling me, when I was a little lad, that he made up his mind if ever he moved it should be south'ard. But I'm not so sure about it. Bartle Massey says, and he knows the south, as the northern men are a finer breed than the southern, harder headed and stronger bodied, and a deal taller. And then he says in some of those counties it's as flat as the back of your hand, and you can see nothing of a distance without climbing up the highest trees. I couldn't abide that. I like to go to work by a road that'll take me up a bit of a hill, and see the fields for miles round me, and a bridge or a town or a bit of a steeple here and there. It makes you feel the world's a big place, and there's other men working in it with their heads and hands besides yourself." "I like the hills best," said Seth, "when the clouds are over your head, and you see the sun shining ever so far off over the Loamford way, as I've often done of late on the stormy days. It seems to me as if that was heaven, where there's always joy and sunshine, though this life's dark and cloudy." "Oh, I love the Stonyshire side," said Dinah. "I shouldn't like to set my face towards the countries where they're rich in corn and cattle, and the ground so level and easy to tread, and to turn my back on the hills where the poor people have to live such a hard life, and the men spend their days in the mines away from the sunlight. It's very blessed on a bleak, cold day, when the sky is hanging dark over the hill, to feel the love of God in one's soul, and carry it to the lonely, bare stone houses, where there's nothing else to give comfort." "Eh," said Elizabeth, "that's very well for you to talk, as looks welly like the snowdrop flowers as I live for days and days when I've gathered 'em, wi' nothing but a drop of water and a peep of daylight. But the hungry folks had better leave the hungry country. It makes less mouths for the scant cake. But," she went on, looking at Adam, "dunna thee talk o' going south'ard and other'd, and leaving their feyther and mother i' the churchyard, and going to a country as they know nothing on. I'll ne'er rest in my grave if I dunna see thee i' the churchyard of a Sunday." "Dunna fear, mother," said Adam. "If I hadna made up my mind not to go, I should have been gone before now." He had finished his breakfast now, and rose as he was speaking. "What art going to do?" asked Lisbeth. "Set about thy feyther's coffin?" "No, mother," said Adam. "We are going to take the wood to the village and have it made there." "Nay, my lad, nay!" Lisbeth burst out in an eager, wailing tone. "Thee wantna let nobody make thy feyther's coffin but thysen? Who'd make it so well? And him as knowed what good work war, and's got a son as is the head of the village, and all treddlesome too for cleverness." "Very well, mother, if that's thy wish. I'll make the coffin at home, but I thought they wouldstna like to hear the work going on." "And why shouldn't I liked? It's the right thing to be done, and's what's liking got to do with? It's the choice of mislikings is all I'm got i' this world. One morsel's as good as another when your mouth's out of taste. They mun set about it now, this morning, first thing, and I wunna ha' nobody to touch the coffin but thee." Adam's eyes met Seth's, which looked from Dinah to him rather wistfully. "No, mother," he said, "I'll not consent, but Seth shall have a hand in it too, if it's to be done at home. I'll go to the village this forenoon, because Mr. Burge'll want to see me, and Seth shall stay at home and begin the coffin. I can come back at noon, and then he can go." "Nay, nay," persisted Lisbeth, beginning to cry. "I'n set me heart on't as thee shalt make thy feyther's coffin. Thee't so stiff and masterful, thee't ne'er do as thy mother wants thee. Thee wast often angered with thy feyther when he were alive. Thee must be the better to him now he's gone. He'd ha' thought nothing on't for Seth to make's coffin." "Say no more, Adam, say no more," said Seth gently, though his voice told that he spoke with some effort. "Mother's in the right. I'll go to work, and do thee stay at home." He passed into the workshop immediately, followed by Adam, while Lisbeth, automatically obeying her old habits, began to put away the breakfast things, as if she did not mean Dinah to take her place any longer. Dinah said nothing, but presently used the opportunity of quietly joining the brothers in the workshop. They had already got on their aprons and paper caps, and Adam was standing with his left hand on Seth's shoulder, while he pointed with the hammer in his right to some boards which they were looking at. Their backs were turned towards the door by which Dinah entered, and she came in so gently that they were not aware of her presence till they heard her voice saying, "Seth Bede?" Seth started, and they both turned round. Dinah looked as if she did not see Adam, and fixed her eyes on Seth's face, saying with calm kindness, "I won't say farewell. I shall see you again when you come back from work, so as I'm at the farm before dark, it will be quite soon enough." "Thank you, Dinah. I should like to walk home with you once more. It'll perhaps be the last time." There was a little tremor in Seth's voice. Dinah put out her hand and said, "You'll have sweet peace in your mind today, Seth, for your tenderness and long-suffering towards your aged mother." She turned round and left the workshop as quickly and quietly as she had entered it. Adam had been observing her closely all the while, but she had not looked at him. As soon as she was gone, he said, "I don't wonder at thee for loving her, Seth. She's got a face like a lily." Seth's soul rushed to his eyes and lips. He had never yet confessed his secret to Adam, but now he felt a delicious sense of disburdenment as he answered, "Aye, Addy, I do love her, too much, I doubt. But she doesna love me, lad, only as one child of God loves another. She'll never love any man as a husband, that's my belief." "Nay, lad, there's no telling. Thee mustna lose heart. She's made out of stuff with a finer grain than most of the women. I can see that clear enough. But if she's better than they are in other things, I canna think she'll fall short of 'em in loving." No more was said. Seth set out to the village, and Adam began his work on the coffin. "God help the lad, and me too," he thought, as he lifted the board. "We're like enough to find life a tough job, hard work inside and out. It's a strange thing to think of a man as can lift a chair with his teeth and walk 50 mile on end, trembling and turning hot and cold at only a look from one woman out of all the rest of the world. It's a mystery we can give no account of, but no more can we of the sprouting of the seed, for that matter." End of chapter 11. Recording by Tom Denholm.